Sports
Strong.
proudly salutes, honors, celebrates those who have served, those who do continue to serve on this Veterans Day. We all do salute you. Even the Giants fans, Nick. Even the Giants fans.
Yeah, and for that particular, hey, Giants fans everywhere, and particularly in the military, better times are coming. Justin Fields on the horizon, I believe, for you guys. You're not going to have to worry about Daniel Jones anymore. So good news for Giants fans, I think, coming up in a few months, Jenna. I do. I believe
all right,
that Justin Fields
let's
is a big
stay in the NFC East. Let's stay there. Cowboys are finding themselves at a surprising 2-7. The team some said had a good shot at making the Super Bowl, now with a good shot to land a top 3 draft pick. And if that is the case, could they possibly consider drafting a quarterback? Here's Jerry Jones on that very topic.
Is it crazy to bring up the idea of taking a quarterback with the 3rd pick or the 2nd pick if you may have it?
Yes. You asked me if it's crazy to bring the idea up, and I'm answering you, yes. We're playing games here, guys, but it's not the thing to be talking about at all. You know, Dak is our quarterback.
Brian Westbrook is joining us now. Brian, good morning. What do you think? Consider everything. Consider where they are on Dak's deal, Dak coming off an injury. Should the Cowboys, given the opportunity, consider drafting a quarterback next year?
Well, good morning, Jenna, and happy Veterans Day to all those veterans out there. You know, I actually believe Jerry Jones. I believe him when he says that he wants Dak to be their quarterback. I believe him when he says he wants Dak to move forward. Now, of course, he wants Dak to be able to do that at the price that Jerry has set, 35, around that range, $35 million a year. He wants to be at that price. And maybe Dak is able to come down to that price while he's coming off an injury. The other part to that, Jerry has seen this offense get worse and worse, and this team get worse and worse since Dak has left. The team has not scored 20 or more points since Dak has left and got injured. So he obviously sees that. So Jerry understands the value of having Dak on that roster. But the true test here, Jenna, is the recovery. And I've had plenty of surgeries, Brandon, and I've seen how different things have gone through my surgeries and recovery. And setbacks are real. If you have multiple setbacks, if you're Dak Prescott, then at that point, the Cowboys have to draft a quarterback just to cover their bases. Now, if he doesn't have any setbacks, then it's a no-brainer. You draft for the defensive side of the ball, and you hope that your team gets better on the defensive side of the ball, and Dak comes back healthy, and you score a bunch of points like you've done in the past. To me, that's the only way to do. The one way that you can mess this thing totally up is be on the fence. Try to do both, meaning you pay Dak, 27-year-old Dak Prescott, and then you go out and draft a quarterback. Obviously, Jerry has already mentioned he's not going to do that. But if you did do that, at that point, you're in a situation where your quarterback is always looking over his shoulder, always wondering what that next guy is going to do. And the 2 positions in football that you can't allow to look over the shoulder is quarterback and kicker. It's a mental thing for them. And so in order to do that, you got to make sure, number one, Dak gets healthy, and then you go out there and you draft for your defense.
All right, so I'm just going to assign and assume full, complete recovery for Dak Prescott. Because I think the Cowboys would have to seriously consider drafting a quarterback even if Dak never got hurt this year. Because what we have learned this season is this team is fundamentally broken on the defensive side of the ball. And they are going to need players via the draft and via free agency to fix and address that. And you have finite resources with which to do that. So I'm not saying you have to draft a quarterback, but if you end up with the 2nd pick and you can get Justin Fields, you have to have the meeting where you look at, okay, in what door number A is we keep Dak Prescott, we pay him either the franchise tag or a long-term deal, we have no money to spend in free agency, and we actually probably have to pair some players off the roster, but we have the number 2 pick of the draft to spend on a defensive player, number 3 pick, whatever it is. Door number 2 is we draft a quarterback, we trade Dak and get a couple first-rounders for him. We have $30+ million of salary cap savings to go out and acquire defensive players to go along with whoever we draft with those additional first-round picks we get from trading Dak. That is a discussion that a responsible team has. And even if you've already had the discussion, Brandon, and you've determined we're not doing it, you don't say that out loud, because if you do end up with the second pick, you want people doing business with you instead of with the team sitting at 3. We saw a few years ago, the Colts were sitting at 3. They got the bounty of picks from the New York Jets to move back instead of who? The Giants sitting at 2, because everyone knew the Giants weren't drafting a quarterback that year. So you don't want that out there. Even if you're not going to do it, you shouldn't say it. And I would argue you should be open to doing it, Brandon, because the team is broken on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, first of all, you have to say it, because if you don't, then you're going to have Dak Prescott and his agent call and say, what's the deal? I saw this blow up in Denver. Josh McDaniels came in. He didn't say it. Jay Cutler asked for a trade. We were the #1 offense that year until Drew Brees and the Saints took over the last game of the season, and then they went on to win the Super Bowl. We had Eddie Royal, Tony Scheffler, we had Ryan Clady, Chris Cooper. We had everything we needed, and all we needed to do was just make some tweaks on defense, and that didn't happen. Why can't we just keep things simple? Football is not that hard. We get up here on these shows and we talk so much about these different scenarios and then these different ways things can play out, but it's really not that hard. Find a quarterback, put some pieces around him, play good defense, and you'll have a chance. You have your quarterback. So if the goal, Kevin, is to win today, to win now, then you stick with Dak Prescott. Now, if your goal was to win later, build a team 5-10 years from now, then we can have a discussion. But you have everything you need right now. And Jerry Jones isn't getting any younger. Jerry Jones is 78. Jerry Jones loves winning. He loves success. He loves competing. So the alternative is what? We've seen so many quarterbacks and so many players go from the draft, transition into the NFL, and fall flat on their face. So for that reason, you stick with the guy who was just averaging 454 yards a game.
That's right. Yeah, so, Nick, I don't really understand your point. And Brandon, I'm more with you on this. We just saw Dak go down, and we're like, this offense no longer works at all. It's not like, I know we had all these plans of like, maybe Jimmy G's not the guy. Maybe the offense will still run. Well, now it doesn't work at all. And the numbers bear it out. Here's Dak. Dak has got 1,856 yards this year. It's just about 20 less than Daniel Jones, and about 40 less than Carson Wentz. So if you want to have a conversation about the Eagles and the Giants, because they're still in a statistical race with Dak Prescott, who's been doing rehab for a month, I think that's fair. It seems like what you want to do, or you say we have to have a meeting about it, and I don't think you've been in an organization too much. You're the only one calling for more meetings. When we saw like the top-down leadership from the Cowboys, you just heard the meeting. It's crazy. We don't need to have the meeting. You can cancel the invite. It feels like you want to turn him into the Colts. It feels like you want to turn him into like an awesome defense, and like, who's around at quarterback? How about Phillip Rivers? And we don't really think the Colts have Super Bowl potential. So I think having a real franchise quarterback is the move. Go ahead.
So, no, just quickly, I'm glad you brought up the Colts. The Colts had Peyton Manning. And you know what they did? They had a meeting. And they said, well, we can continue to pay Peyton a ton, have questions about his health coming off a major injury, or we can make the hard choice and go on to Andrew Luck.
After
and
two
for
Super
a short
Bowls.
While,
That's after a that's after a lot of success. Excuse me. That's after a lot of success.
Right. Yeah, and they still did it. And it was a guy who had won a Super Bowl and won 4 league MVPs, and they still did it. The point I am making is this, is that the Cowboys need to recognize they might have more issues than Dak Prescott and one blue chip defensive player in the draft.
Yeah, but sending players out, that's the worst. That's one of my pet peeves. Sending good players out is not the solution. The goal is to gather good players. The goal is not to have a franchise quarterback that can play the next 10, 15 years and say, okay, we're going to get rid of you who can win games by yourself and then go build Go get a defensive end. Go get a safety. That's not the most important position on the field.
But you
The quarterback
would
is,
also
and
be
you have
right.
that.
Of course. But you would only do this if you think you also are getting
can
that
get one
quarterback
of the
with the
top.
second pick of the draft.
Right.
You also
Right. If you got
you're
your
not
young
doing it
quarterback.
to hand it over to DiNucci or Gilbert or or Andy Dalton. You'd be doing it if you believe Justin Fields is the guy.
Russell Wilson in his prime. Are you saying I'm getting rid of Russell Wilson and taking Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields? Is that what we're going to do here? Dak Prescott is playing really good football.
Dak is not Russell Wilson.
Okay, so it's not a discussion.
Dak is not Russell Wilson.
Dak is not.
And Dak is Dak is not Russell Wilson. You
Dak is a winner. Dak is a winner. Dak is a winner.
Exactly.
He's different styles, but
If
he's a
Jerry
winner.
wanted Dak, he could have had him. Could have signed